And here comes Brian. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It is Tuesday evening, the 18th of June. Somehow June's starting to fly by. And I've been talking with a bunch of you this week. I've met with Brian recently, and we're making some plans for the coming year. And so we're kind of wrapping up things in a way. You know, this summer you can feel things starting to slow down a little bit in some ways, and in some ways they're just picking up. So what I'd like to do tonight, we've got a guest, and I'll introduce him in just a moment. Before we do, let's dive in so he can hear who you are, and let's find out what's happening good. So if you would, let's just go around the room, and since we're a pretty small group, I think we can do this. And just something that's happened in the past week, something that you're celebrating, something you've learned. And we'll start with folks on the screen. And Cody was the first to sign in, so we'll start with Cody. Cody, you can introduce yourself, what you're working on, and then.
Yep, I'm Cody Statler. I'm a graphic designer, currently working on the ArtSpace ROA project. We just posted again, which was the first time in a little while. So when you guys get the chance afterwards, you can go on Instagram and check that out. And then what I'm celebrating, I kind of already told Doug about it, but as of today, I'm an official LLC. Thanks in part to Doug and Catherine Devine and her class that I took, and Susan Culbertson and Tom Tanner. So a lot of awesome people that kind of helped me along the way.
And what are your hopes, or what's your vision for that? You know, the near term, long term, midterm, whatever.
I don't know. That's kind of a loaded question, but I'd say in the near term, it's accurately reporting on my taxes. So that's kind of the emphasis of it all. So, yeah.
Excellent. That is an admirable goal.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And Brett.
Yeah. We had to go, a bunch of us went through a bunch of hoops to try and get a commission from Carillion before Christmas. And nothing ever happened with it. So I thought, well, that's the end of that. You know, I gave up. And then just yesterday, out of the blue, everybody kind of got their assignments. And we have some pretty big projects we'll be working on until Christmas of this year. So I'm very excited.
So is that through the Healing Arts program, or what's it through?
I guess it's for the new wing that they're building.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's a design group in Texas. And actually, it's kind of funny because they want all the canvases taken off stretchers and rolled up and sent to them in Texas. And then, of course, they're going to come back here, which is a little weird, but I guess that's just how they do it. But it's just kind of an exciting thing. So,
well, great.
So forward to get started.
Congratulations. I try to stay away from the hospital and such, but if I'm there, I will look for your art.
I don't like it much myself. I've been there a couple of times. I'd rather not go.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Brett. Joy.
Hello, I'm Joy. I'm a singer, song leader, songwriter, and I'm a facilitator with the Arts Connect Neighbors project. I'm celebrating, we had our monthly circle singing event on Sunday, and it was very small because a lot of people were out of town, and it was like 5 or 6 people, but it was really sweet. It was like we were outside under the oak trees, and a few people really opened up about what was going on in their lives, and it was really heartfelt and beautiful. So it just feel really good about like that little bit of healing space that we had on Sunday.
Oh, that's a great example and message for us. You know, have you ever been to an event where they say, "Oh, I wish more people had come. I wish more people had come," and you'd say, "Oh no, I mean, well, I'm here. What about, you know?" It makes you feel a little less valued. But even more important than that, there is a conversation, like Adrienne Marie Brown says, there's a conversation that can happen with whoever's in the room. And our goal, our job is to find that conversation when we're together, because it will change if you add 5 more people, or even 2 more people, or even maybe even 1 more person. So yeah, let's take advantage of those opportunities, and sometimes small is beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, Troy. Corey.
Hey, for anybody who's not here usually, I put together the newsletter and do the illustrations for that. So, that's fun, and it's nice to be, part of that, and makes me feel good that I'm getting all the stuff everybody else is working on out there for people to check it out. And I did the videography for Hoot and Holler last week, which I do sporadically. So if anybody who's never been to Hoot and Holler, that's an awesome thing to check out. It's definitely community based, just like the art thing that we're doing. And that's been a lot of fun. And other than that, I'm just kind of a heavy hobbyer, and I end up doing a lot of stuff all at once a lot of the time. So I'm not really sure what I focus on mostly. I just stay busy being all over the place.
Yeah, excellent. You're and you're a chief communicator. That's what I call you.
Yeah,
That newsletter is critical. Yeah. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Katrina. Yeah, Katrina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katrina. I'm working on, well, celebrating Juneteenth. We just had the Juneteenth festival over the weekend, and that was great. I had Jane come out, and she brought was like the parachute. Yeah, and all the kids came out and painted on it, so that was really cool. So we're still celebrating that, and right now I'm just preparing for the Lick Run Greenway murals and painting. I bought some old vintage jackets from the thrift store. So I'm painting on that. I'm painting on shoes. I'm just trying to get, keep the flow going. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Well, the Arts Commission met today, and they officially approved your mural for the Lick Run Greenway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're
Awesome.
we're officially a go. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know that. Thank you.
And they loved it. They're all positive comments.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then Brian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian. I guess I'm celebrating new beginnings. It feels like I'm just spent the last few weeks just wrapping up the last year, and had a lot of fun, exciting meetings with Doug in the last few weeks. So I'm excited about that. And I got a first hint of vacation mode, which is why I blew off a meeting with Doug yesterday. I left my planner in the car, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I thought, I know I have a meeting today, so I apologize for that. And now I'm starting to fill my planner with all the cool stuff that I want to get done. And there's no better feeling. Well, maybe accomplishing a whole bunch of stuff and looking back on it feels really good. But filling up a planner with stuff you want to do, I think, is actually more exciting for me. But I like this time of year a lot.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna try and emulate that. Yeah, I like that. All right, Polly. You're on mute.
You're
still, I
muted.
think.
You're muted, Polly. We can't hear you.
Thank you. I am grateful for all of you, and I experienced the Old Lick Cemetery cleaning a week or so ago, which was fascinating to see the a professional representative come who does these types of restorations in old cemeteries across the nation, I guess. And so that was fascinating to see his techniques for cleaning stones. Gravestones are usually marble or fieldstone or sandstone or limestone. So you got to know your stone, and then lifting up some of them that had toppled, using a real simple tripod of 2x4s and chains. So I was really glad to be a part of that, and encourage anybody that comes around again, or if the folks that he trained do another session. And Juneteenth at Eureka looked like a great setup. I helped a little bit at the beginning of the morning, and Dana and I will be meeting with some Gainsborough neighbors and supporters tomorrow for some workshops and discussions about visioning, and bringing a bunch of our materials that we've used over the last year or so together in one spot. So that's the first time we'll be doing that kind of thing, and I'm hoping it will lead to the next series of those discussions.
Great. I think Wayne will be there tomorrow. He's part of it. I think he's planning on being Catherine.
Hey guys. We just saying what we've been up to?
Yeah, just anything you're celebrating. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to do my first Arts Connect Neighbors event on Saturday, which was really wonderful experience. I'm very grateful that we pulled it off. It was a short notice, and it just felt like I needed to learn to what to expect. And so Jacob Smith was great to work with, and it was a kind of a last minute for them too, but they were really excited about it. And it was a lot of catalogs were given away, and they definitely wanted to have me and other artists come back for more another opportunity in the fall. So that was just great. It was great to kind of get that happening. And then my other wonderful arts project was the gallery talk, and that was last night. And I still feel like I'm still remembering bits and pieces of the conversations and the feedback I got from folks. I'm really grateful to be in that position, to have been there. I know everybody's busy and everybody can make it, but because I have to do it, I'm there every time. So I've gotten to meet all the artists, and it's really been a wonderful opportunity to really reach out and meet so many people that are working in this community that we would otherwise would not have had the chance to see their work or what inspires them. So that was great.
Thank you. And since that's the last one, now let me say thank you so much, Catherine, for pulling those together. They're just a really special community building evening where people who really care about the community and care about each other and get to know each other. It's great. I hope we continue doing those kinds of things. Yeah. Susie.
Hi, everyone. I think everyone's heard me talk a little bit in here about what I'm working on. I'm a dancer and a theater maker, and I've been working on a script and trying to find the right collaborators and the right home for this script. And it's being used as a tool for public dialogue around race and history in Roanoke. Specifically around the Racial Integrity Act in the 1970s. So that's just kind of ongoing. We meet once or twice a month, and that's just kind of in progress. But what I'm celebrating is actually Pride Month, and there are so many events happening around the area. I really, really love Second Fridays and the community organizing that they're doing in this area. And the Southwest Virginia LGBTQ Oral History Project are doing some pretty rad events if y'all follow them. So just want to shout out to them and plug them for their community activism and the way in which they are engaging their community. So I'm going to celebrate them and celebrate Pride Month. So happy Pride, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you. And Molly Kernan.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
I'm having some internet issues here. I am just taking a little break for a minute in between projects, but I've been building some fairy houses just for fun. Thinking about summer solstice coming up, and I have some really fun things I'd like to do with my workshop. Have a plan now, so I hope somebody signs up.
I just recommended it to someone this morning very early.
Oh,
in an email.
exciting. Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's
Good. Well,
part
I'm
of-
ready.
Yeah. And we just talked, Joy and Katie and such, last week. We said we're gonna start being a little prescriptive. We're gonna start prescribing some of these activities to neighborhood organizations as we interact with them.
I think that's
Yeah.
a great idea. I love it.
And Rachel. Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Rachel Coleman. I am an author and pretender to many thrones, but also a small business owner. I am celebrating I sold my 100th copy of the book that I just released today. I released it in December and I sold the 100th copy today. So I'm like, milestone.
Yeah.
And I'm working on getting some workshops together based on the items that are in the book to help foster like community and connection. So
Excellent. I'm gonna have to get a copy of your book, and yeah, we need to talk more.
I carry copies with me now. I've learned.
Oh, good. So she's ready to hand sell me a copy of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are planning on talking.
Mhm.
Yeah, very soon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. That one, good. And now I'm piecing everything together. Yeah.
What's the title?
Yeah, you
Oh, yeah.
have to promote it.
It's called 42 Things to Do Before You Go, Finding a Reason to Stay. And it's geared towards helping people reignite their desire to stay here among the living by connecting with themselves, the community, and nature. And there's lots of, I think, interesting and fun prompts for people. Like some of them are like go to a drag king show or learn to swim or different things that will get you back out in the community or finding love for yourself and trying new things. So I'm working on workshops and talks and things around the 42 things. So I'm actually looking for collaborators to do fun stuff with.
And I think we're gonna go deeper with you and Noelle, right?
Yes, we're looking at doing a music lesson because one of the things is to learn one song on an instrument. So we want to bring community music lessons.
Okay, so we're gonna do one of our July meetings is gonna be focused on this. Doesn't that sound fun? It sounds like a fit, right? Yeah. All right, and I mentioned prescribing earlier, and our guest tonight, we've got Dick and Nancy Guerrant, right? Guerrant, yeah, and Dick grew up here in Roanoke, but I just met him very recently over at Brandon Oaks when Megan Sharp and I went to talk about everything that's happening with the arts, and you have to say something so the camera picks you up real quick. Let's see, you wanna say something?
Hello.
There you are. And he told me about his research, and he's Dr. Guerrant has had a career at the University of Virginia, and I bet I can share a screen just so you can see a website. And this is the website. It's a Center for Global Health Equity. And Dick came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, there's a message that you need to build into this." And I loved it. And I said, well, why don't you come help us talk about this message? And Dick has written a number of, certainly article and book, but has turned his attention to a specific topic and a specific style of writing. And has a couple of books he's going to talk to us about a little bit and tell us some stories. But really, I think maybe that's enough introduction, but I asked him to kind of help us think about, cooperation and systems and evolution. And I think it's going to be fun little conversation. And I'm going to turn it over to Dick and let him tell us some stories, and then we'll have some conversation.
Well, Doug, thanks. Goodness, what a special honor actually to be invited to join your meeting this evening. And especially on Juneteenth Eve, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
even more special. So it was terrific to hear and see so many kindred spirits. And I have to admit that I was telling Doug earlier, I'm the non-artist in the room. I spent my career in science and working in developing areas, children in favelas in Brazil and South Africa and Bangladesh, and working on some terrible diseases you don't want to know about, but everyone. But I think Megan Sharp said that she had started writing after she was 40. And I wanted to tell Megan, I said, after articles and textbooks, which really don't count, I started trying to write in my late 70s and learned very quickly how hard that is to do. I went to a writing group, and that was a very humbling experience. But I took a lot of notes. I learned a little bit, and I learned a lot. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, or about 5 or 6, I guess now, but ended up by wondering, how much more time is there for me to sort of try to write this thing that I've been thinking about for 25 years, and sort of about, the bridging between the sciences and the humanities, which I really think, I'll speak from the science side, we desperately need your involvement with anything that science ever thinks about. And hopefully there's some that works a little bit the other way as well. But I really got intrigued with sort of changes over time and how some traits seem to have been advantageous a long time ago. They might not be so advantageous anymore. Things like perhaps aggressive behavior, once that survival advantage, if you had to hunt your food or protect your home. And I'm now worried about that being one of the biggest threats to our survival. So just as an example, and then we've been interested in studying some of the genes that are involved in that. But I'd like to just sort of shut up after maybe mentioning 2 or 3 stories. And the closest I have are a couple of props here, so to Arnie, but that's other people. The first story is about, what is it that's special about being human? And it's really interesting to sort of dig into that. And so that'll be my first story, the main one. The second story is just about a game, about how the power of listening to the other person, something that we need an awful lot more of. And has anybody ever heard of the game Ungame? Ungame is something that our daughter teaches school, and I was playing Ungame, and I'm sort of a simplistic guy, but apparently you draw a card and it gives each person in the game the ability to address the question on the card or whatever they want. But the rule is that nobody else can say anything. And then the next person draws a card, and that card might have interesting questions, or just sort of what's your favorite movie or something, But anyway, that can be incredibly powerful. And there's a story in one of these books that about just listening, how powerful that has been in her classroom, actually, as she goes around and she sort of say, well, Ms. B, you said that nobody else could talk? Does you really mean that? Yes, she said. So even you? Yes. And she took a deep breath and started talking about cheating was what her question was. When you think of cheating, you say, well, everybody cheats, you know. You feel like you have to cheat sometime. And then the next person will come. 2-3 months later, this young woman, young ninth grader girl, but they had a little writing quiz or assignment. She wrote a profound essay about personal integrity that was just, you know, and such as it's probably the first time anyone has ever listened to her without reacting. And so that I was just very blown away. So that's something about why care and how to care. And then the last is the shortest story about my hero that has some relevance to Juneteenth. So the first, let me go to that first one though. And there's this really interesting study that I found just fascinating, where trying to understand what's special about being Homo sapiens, you know, humans. And they did this study with babies, human babies, and the closest relative on the scale, I guess, is bonobo chimpanzees. You probably know more about this than I do. I didn't know anything about it. And apparently these babies as young as 3 months of age and the bonobo chimpanzees starting at whatever age it is into their adulthood can react quite strikingly, even a 3-month-old baby, to all kinds of symbols and things that they see. And so the study was, I'll have somewhere. So they showed human babies this puppet show with one puppet trying to climb a mountain and struggling terribly to get up the mountain. And then a second puppet would come in, and in scene one, the second puppet would actually help the first puppet get up the mountain. And even a 3 to 6 month old baby will pay attention, smile, even reach out to that set of puppets. And then the second scene was the same puppet again trying to get up the hill. But this time the second puppet that came in tried to aggressively push him down, wouldn't let him get up the hill. And the human babies, they have significant numbers, and I was impressed. The human babies as a group, you know, before they've been taught to do these things, would just turn away or they would frown. I mean, they could tell a tremendous difference in the response. The chimpanzee bonobo monkeys actually were more interested in the aggressive, dominant behavior. You know, you want to be on the side of the bully, you know, in the power. And I don't know whether that's really a huge evolutionary step for us, but it's really interesting to think that it might be just an example of, you know, the evolutionary advantage of cooperating. I mean, you know, there are business characters out there that I'm meeting tonight. You know, you gain a whole lot more by collaborating than you do by just fierce competing or knocking down the other person. And so the power of cooperation, I think you were trying to give me a topic title or something, but cooperation as an evolutionary tool, really. And so I guess you understood what I was trying to say better than I did, I think, Doug. So, and then it's really interesting, you know, you can even pick out specific genes that are examples. You know, you probably know the story about the sickle cell gene, which is probably in the human gene pool because it was protective against malaria. A baby, a young child with sickle cell trait is less likely to die of cerebral malaria. I'm tropical medicine guy, so forgive me, but that really was fascinating. But if we could ever just sort of finish getting rid of malaria, that evolutionary advantage would have changed to only a terrible disease. And so we've been studying the Alzheimer gene even, and think that, well, we published a fair bit of data that children in the northeast of Brazil that were malnourished and getting repeated infections in their first 2 years of life, actually 6, 7 years later, were cognitively better if they had this Alzheimer gene, ApoE4, or something. Anyway, so here's a gene that, you know, all of our ancestors went through all these horrific, malnutrition, inadequate sanitation. Every person in this room and that room, our room, you could go back 2 or 3 generations and find children in the cemetery that I see we have a cemetery expert that could died at 2 years old with typhoid fever. Thankfully, we don't see that much anymore. So here's a gene that might have had that as an evolutionary advantage, and yet, if we could ever sort of get water and sanitation, the impoverished kids around the world, this would only be this horrible Alzheimer risk gene. So it's multi-genes, and it's anyway. It's just interesting to think about other traits, that might have changed. And so the prop that I have is, I don't know, that bonobo monkey story is here. And this is the drawing. It doesn't show well enough, but it's just the drawing of 2 kids one was helping the other with a broken leg to get up the mountain. And our 12-year-old grandson and a 16-year-old amazing young woman who was the daughter of the person who was a brilliant person working in our lab, drew that, and we put it on the picture of this evolution of evolution, survival value of caring. That's the closest thing I have to an art prop that some kids were better than I was and trying to figure out what that is. And then that story, so the second story I've already told you basically about the ungame. And I don't know, chapter is on all the things about listening that is in here. And then the last story, because I need to shut up, I want to hear your thoughts about this, because I think bridging art and science is so important. And that was sort of grew out of one of those despondent moments that I think we all have sooner or later. And I think this, I don't know, it was sometime, it was after 9/11, a couple of years later when we were about to invade Iraq, and then a couple of people, 1 or 2 people in the lab had some horrible personal family tragedies. And I was just late getting home, and just, you get to the point where you gotta say something. And so I owe this to one of my great heroes, as to that it's really important to remember at times like this 3 things. And the first is to have a dream. Don't forget to have a dream. What is your wildest dream is what we should be asking ourselves. And it may shift over time. I think mine was it. Yeah. But oh my goodness, on Juneteenth Eve, for Martin Luther King to have taught us that incredible message. The second thing, have a dream. The second thing is to start doing what you can, do the doable. And then the third thing that I just sort of had to get off my chest in this despondent moment is persevere. Just don't quit. I wanted to say, and hope you live long enough, but, that's not what's important. What's important is to have that dream. Don't ever forget it. Always keep asking, what is my wildest dream? And secondly, do the doable. And thirdly, don't quit. Persevere. And so this is my prop here, but you all can do a lot better with some of these ideas. I know the International House for international students at UVA, they wanted to put those have a dream stuff on their global things, heavy, it's a good paperweight. But anyway, I really would love to just shut up and hear if this tweaks any questions or thoughts or ideas, because I was trying to tell Doug, the biggest importance of the arts is for our survival.
Yeah, well, let's put that to the group. Somebody might have put something in the chat. I'm not very good at following the chat. Dreaming, my favorite. Jane put that. All right, let's hear any responses. Joy.
When you were talking about cooperation, I automatically thought about they've done lots of studies about how singing affects people and how people are affected when they sing together. Like their heart rates align, and it's really amazing. And there was one study they did where they had two different groups of children, and one group of children, they just had them do cooperative games, or kind of like games like competitive games where you have to carry an egg on a spoon or whatever. And both groups had to do these games, but one group, they had the children sing together first. And then they played the games, and they found that the children who sang together were way more likely to help each other and to empathize with each other and to cooperate rather than, compete. And I just love that.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you. That's brilliant.
And Joy and Katie, both Katie's not on tonight, but in their circle singing, and they've done it they'll do it with an organization, say the board of directors having a meeting. Let's see, points of diversity maybe you worked with this past year, Joy, and working with English language learners. Katie Zawacki said told me how valuable it was, or how important that moment was for them. So she must have seen some difference in the board and how they work together after that as well. Yeah.
I never quite adequately appreciated how singing together and harmonizing is really an amazing cooperative operation. And it's obvious to Joy and everyone else, but that's just the kind of thing, though, that just sort of realizing and appreciating what it can help people do. It's really cool.
What'd you say, Jane?
I just appreciated the conversation about heritage, heredity, and how things live in the body. And there was a really great article today, I think it was in the Atlantic, about how trauma is actually passed through, I think they call it epigenetics. They did this experimentation with mice and strawberries and shocking them with electric shock, and they found that the offspring of the mice were scared to wouldn't eat strawberries, and they never got shocked. You know what I mean? And it's just, and they've done studies on the descendants of those who suffered through the Holocaust, and they find the same thing, that those fears and that trauma lives in the body. And I think that it's important that we think about our community, in particular when we're going into Gainsborough, and they can't come to a decision, they can't come to consensus, they don't they're distrustful of government. Well, it lives in their bodies, you know, and I just think that you have to go in with that knowledge. Thank you.
What a great example of, you know, the arts and the science and teaching each other. So much that the other one all alone doesn't think about.
Oh, yeah.
A great example, you know.
Let's see, and there's a chat, let's see. Susie highly recommends, oh yeah, my grandmother's hands, yeah. Susie, you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, sure. I think we're talking about how things live in the body. So my grandmother's hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Minds by Resmaa Menakem. And then also The Body Keeps the Score by Polk. Both of those books really talk about where and how trauma lives in the body and its constructions. And then I also, just being a dancer and someone who utilizes the body as community building, community cultural organizing, and also like the exploration of asking questions about the body and being inside of a body. One of the things I was struck by, and this is like maybe not such a positive spin, is that most of the dance training that I have stumbled on or that I see young people partaking is the form of ballet. Like ballet schools are really a very common practice, and they like have schools in every small town, and it's just a really prevalent thing. And I was just listening, there's this huge article that came out in The Guardian recently that talks about George Balanchine, one of the most famous ballet choreographers in history, who they compared him to a cult leader. And they talked about anyway, there's a whole legacy there that's really, really traumatic in dance. And he founded the American Ballet Theater, one of the most famous ballet schools in the country. And I'm just thinking about dance's potential here, and also like dance needing to reckon with its own legacy of constricting the body versus liberating the body. And when you're dealing with pathways through the body, like what's locked in there, I'm just curious about. I mean, I know there's a lot of dance therapists out there. I know there's like a lot of practitioners. I'm trying to be one. I'm learning as I go, who are talking about somatics and how to use the body to access history and story and healing practices. And usually in the kind of work that I'm doing, it's celebrating movements of the everyday and the mundane, and how I don't actually think that is accessible to children in a common cultural way as we would want it to be. I think that a lot of folks who stumble into that path and thinking around dance come into it a lot later in life, maybe in academia, or you know, there are other communities that have, and I think specifically a lot of like white communities really struggle with this, because different communities and different cultures have different cultural practices around dance. But anyway, I just wanted to voice that as like a concern for a community that I am deeply ingrained in and a part of, and how I want there to be more conversations about this in the legacies of dance that I come from, because I think sometimes our legacies are really harmful, and specifically constrict access to the body in certain ways. Anyway, I was just ruminating on that.
Wow. Joy.
I just want to comment on that, Susie, that like the same thing is in the voice tradition. Classical training is very constricting, and like it forces you to squeeze your voice in certain ways. And so like a lot of classical singers have to be retrained to find their natural voice. And I've been doing somatic voice work training and learning all about that. And yeah, it's just like, it's so fascinating, the parallels that I'm seeing when I'm hearing you talk.
You know, I can't help but wonder about how rich cross-cultural experiences with dance or song or art must be. I mean, we've just lived in, you know, 3 or 4 different sort of cultures, and they're so very different. I don't know whether the same restrictions probably apply some of the time, but there also might be solutions that are there waiting to be shared. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you think about, and control, and some of the most beautiful, and I think like in architecture, you know, a company town can be beautiful, and the architecture, every house in a row, and you think about what an impressive environment that was, and you see it in kind of like military marching, right? Or whatever it is, getting everyone to do something exactly the same way is, there's gotta be, it's that control and a bit of oppression that we give ourselves over to, right? For sometimes for beauty, or or a concept of beauty. But I think there is something, you know, look at the work we're trying to do in the community now with art, and what can we create without that sense of control? And that's what this is about, right? How can we say, what do you think? Where does your heart tell you you can act? How can we give you resources to do that? How can we work in a different way in the community? Susie, I'm thinking that you're dance training, and you must, you know, like I'm looking at myself right now, I'm crossing my arms, only probably because I'm cold, but I'm like air conditioning. But I imagine you must be able to read people's bodies in situations sometimes, or get messages because of your training, your dance, your awareness, and even the listening that your second point. It's a way of listening, you know, by observing and tuning in.
Yeah, and ballet is not the only legacy of dance by any means, right? It's just a really, really predominant one that occupies a really big place in our culture. So, but they're like stumbling in late into life, coming from an improv background myself and coming from a somatics, I stumbled into these things a little bit later and have felt like the minute I entered my 30s, the majority of my dance training has been unlearning.
Mm-hmm.
Or learning anew, or just eating some humble pie for a while, and trying to do it just like let's try it all differently, do it all differently, and trying really, really hard to be humble about it. And there's also like, I don't want to trash ballet. Like let's be clear, I love ballet. Somebody asked me once to move in a quote unquote way that is natural to me. And I was like, I've been doing ballet since I was 3 years old. The thing that feels the most natural is to go to the bar and stand in first position for me. Like that is what feels natural. And ballet has done remarkable things in history. I just think in terms of the conversation about like what exposure children have and what it teaches as a cultural practice, like how is dance a cultural practice of being in community, and as someone who teaches at ballet schools, I'm usually I was joking around with Doug about this, I get hired as the modern teacher in ballet schools because first of all, ballet schools are some of the most well-funded in the country. And they usually have enough money to bring in extra teachers. So I get jobs that way. And then also they're like, and I always ask, what kind of modern are you looking for? Because modern's its own genre. And they go, you know, whatever it is you do. And it's like, okay, so not modern, but something that came after modern, because modern is a very specific time in history. And so usually what I do is I come into dance schools and I offer alternatives. I've done that with like 3 different dance programs, where we come in and we do somatics and we do healing around bleeding toes from point class. And I just try and offer them other ways of moving, that like, this isn't the only option. And it's like small question mark enough, probably not. Is any of it enough? But at least it's something, trying. And I don't want to trash. I mean, I love ballet. I really, really do. But I think for me, it's going to be a lifelong reckoning.
I just want to chime in. Can you hear me? Yeah, I just want to chime in with you all, because I think all of these things, they do touch each other. And I do remember Basil Vanderkolk, that's the Your Body Keeps the Score guy. And there was a time I was on my way to yoga and he was on the radio and I really wanted to listen to him, but I also had to go to yoga. But then I ultimately realized that what he was saying was what I experienced. It wasn't the yoga. It was being together with other people. And what Doug was saying, that when human bodies are synchronized, there's a sense of safety. And I took this from what I understood is that when we don't feel safe, we can't jump over that. We can't learn, we can't relax, we can't create. So reclaiming a sense of safety is number one for any type of wellness in my mind. But wellness can come from not ballet or yoga. It could just be walking down the street with somebody that you walk arm in arm in, or that you just sync. But what I got from all of that was that the sense of safety is an embodied sense. It isn't something you can think about having. You have to go back into the body to reclaim that sense of feeling safe. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that for all the things that we're trying to do to create a better community, I think safety has to be really given its full attention, that we can't just pretend that this bad stuff isn't happening and then it's not going to happen on my part of town. I mean, safety really is like a huge, just as I said that, my cat scared me. I jumped up here. But anyhow, I just wanted to throw that in there, that there's many ways of movement that can help us feel more at peace or feel more safe. But I think what you're talking about too with children, we take it away from them. They have that natural state of embodied joy. And then we make them sit still or be only in a certain way kind of movement. So I just wanted to share that.
That made me think, and I don't know, you'll know, you're a doctor, you'll know what this is. There's something they've studied about how nurturing and caring for other people extends something in you. It's
your telomeres.
Your telomere, yeah. And that by caring for somebody else, we're better able to manage stressful situations and transitions.
I think, your point about safety, in order to be able to step out and be creative. I mean, that's even the word that we use. You step out to be creative, but you can't step out if you're not safe.
Yeah.
You're terrified to do that. I think stress shortens your telomeres, and you don't live as long if your telomeres are shorter or something like that. But it's part of your chromosomes. It gets over my head pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, I already said all my knowledge of it, but my understanding of it was that if you are caring for someone, if you're making the situation safer for someone else and
less stressful,
that actually helps you. And even though it causes a lot of anxiety to put ourselves out there. You're bringing community members together. You're saying, okay, let's do a project. Meanwhile, we've never done a project like this before. We can't promise that we're for certain that they're going to be great outcomes. And we're saying, let's have a little bit of faith as we're doing it. But if we are able to put the people we're working with first, care about their safety, make them comfortable in our bodies, that's actually working for us and helping us manage the situation and be able to do it.
I think the more we learn, the more it supports everything you're saying. Yeah. And in fact, it's also awfully good medicine to sort of have socialization. And
this is a doctor saying this.
Hey, Stay away from the doctors. I'm trying. Yeah, yeah. This is so rich and interesting.
Yeah, any other thoughts?
You know, overcoming hierarchical systems that have caused so much harm is basically what we're talking about. And when you form a circle, when you create a safe space, you are consciously aware of, you know, trying to break those patterns of the past. And through these art works that we do, through recognizing and questioning the authorities that you know ruled our areas of expertise, whether it be dance or singing or you know painting, you know it's for, as a painter, it's great to get a stick and play in the mud, you know, and do some symbols from our ancient wisdom within. And likewise, the circles make everyone equal and give that power and opportunity for the individual to see their own strength and health and participation in society. So yeah, great conversation tonight. Thank you.
And I have to, and Corey, I've got to come back to your comment about Breakin' and Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, they're my favorite movies when I was a kid, and they're still good even now. And the one of the main characters starts out as a ballet dancer, and you know, she loves ballet, but she's like kind of being pushed into it by her parents, and then she meets these break dancer guys, and they really love doing that. So they make a breakdancing team, and then they end up saving a community center with dance, with this big performance they do. And there's all kinds of competition. Like there's a bad guy breakdancer gang, and like, you know, it's kind of layered, you know, you'd have to sit down and watch it to see, you know, way better than I could explain it. But it's a really fun movie. And that's really stuck with me ever since I was a kid. It's probably still one of my favorite two movies.
Could you do any of the moves from it?
Oh yeah, when I was like 10, but yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I've just added those to my list. I will watch those. So. All right, any other comments tonight? All right, we're right at 8 o'clock. Well, let's give a round of applause to our guests. Yeah. Yeah, really appreciate that. That added to our ongoing conversation. It was a great fit. I appreciate it.
I was taking notes and learning a ton more than anybody. Thank you.
All right, everybody, any comments or any reminders that we need before we head off?
Just that we should have movie night.
We should have movie night. Yeah. We need to have movie night, and we need to have an in-person get together. And
Circle singing
with food
and singing.
Yeah.
Movie night at the planetarium.
Let's pick a July night to do that. Do you want to do it on one of the Tuesday nights? Is that the plan? Okay.
That would be awesome.
Okay, somebody help me plan, and I'm happy to help. I'm looking for a partner and helping to plan.
Okay, I'll help plan.
Okay, Joy, let's set it up.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Yay!
All right, everybody. Yay.
Hey.
Have a good night and be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.